Trap monsters have been a part of Yu-Gi-Oh since the early days. Most fans were introduced to them through Merrick's Metal Reflect Slime and Odeon's embodiment of Apophis. But since then, they've taken on quite a few different looks. Paleozoic set a new standard for what trap monsters could be, Eldritch took the meta by storm, and most recently, Apophis has taken steps into meta contention. But of course, there have been some stumbles along the way. Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine is excellent, but its counterparts aren't so great. Cards like You're Finished and Kubiko are cool, but don't quite feel powerful enough. And one of the biggest missteps is Argostars. The twist with these is that once they're in the monster zone, they can return to the spell and trap zone as continuous traps, but unfortunately, it feels like this deck came out a decade too late. And in this video, we're going to explore why I hate Argostars. But before we get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's go. Supreme Darkness was released in January of 2025, and it's a mixed bag, but overall it was a decent set. Primate Etherbarrel, Mitsurugi, and the new Crystron cards were game changers, but Evil Heroes, Tenyi, and the focus of today's video, Argostars, dragged the set down a bit. But that doesn't mean these cards are necessarily bad, because they're not. Some of them are actually decent, and we'll start with the starter card of the deck, Argostars Glorious Adra. Its effect reads: during your opponent's turn, if you control a continuous trap card, quick effect, you can banish this card from your hand, make the attack of one monster on the field 0 until the end of this turn. If this card is normal summoned this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your continuous trap cards or their effects. You can banish this card you control, place 2 Argostars continuous traps with different names from your hand and or deck face up in your spell and trap zone. Glorious Adra is the best card in the archetype by a mile. It provides you some cover for your continuous traps the turn they're activated, and the other effect to place 2 Argostars traps face up is incredible. And this effect can be very difficult to interact with. We don't have hand traps that negate setting or placing spell and trap cards from the deck, so the only way to stop this is with a generic monster negate if your opponent went first, or cards like Effect Failure and Infinite Impermanence, which aren't as popular in modern formats compared to lingering hand traps like Droll and the Mulch Armies. Ultimately, this card can only be as good as the traps it sets, which we'll go over now. All of the traps have 3 effects. An effect that strengthens your warrior monsters on the field, an effect to summon itself to a zone, and do something else. And finally, an effect to return to the spell trap zone. Starting with Argostars Lightning Tidal. It gives all of your warrior monsters 500 attack and defense, and by discarding a card, it can summon itself and then search for an Argostars card. This card is good. The boost effect isn't crazy, but it searches, which means it's automatically good. The second trap monster is Slayer Ateo. It prevents your warrior monsters from being destroyed by card effects, and when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon Ateo, and then if you have a banished Argostars monster, you can return 1 card on the field to the hand. A non-targeting interaction is really good, and having a banished Argostar monster shouldn't be that hard if you placed it in the spell and trap zone with Adra. So off of 1 card you could summon Adra, get its protection effect, use its other effect to place Tidal and Ateo, Tidal summon itself, and then search for another Argostars card. And then the card that puts it all together is the field spell Argostar Home Stadium. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, add 1 Argostars card from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. Each time a continuous trap in the spell and trap card zone is special summoned to your field, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Once per chain, if a continuous trap activates its effect in your monster zone, while you have a banished Argostars monster, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Home Stadium allows you to recycle Adra, but more importantly, it turns all of your traps into negates. This means if you don't meet the conditions to get the extra effects with Tidal or Ateo, they still have value as future interruptions. The only drawback is that this card says if and not when. The difference being you get to negate in a new chain after your Argostar returns to the spell and trap card zone, which kind of telegraphs your plays and gives your opponent a little more time to respond. But overall, I think Home Stadium is a good card. This is actually a decent first wave of support. Glorious Adra is fantastic as we mentioned prior. The field spell isn't a starter like most field spells, but it's crucial for the resource loop and can turn into multiple interruptions. Tidal is a good searcher, and I think the discard is fair, because you don't have to have a banished Argostar to activate the effect. And Ateo being a non-targeting bounce is pretty powerful, although it's limited in terms of when it can be activated. Playing this deck on release was a little rough. Cards like Silhouette Rabbit and Angel Statue Azurin help, but the biggest issue is getting access to Adra quickly. Being a warrior, it is searchable with reinforcement of the army, and Home Stadium in combination with Gold Sarcophagus is a workaround, but very inefficient. It can be searched with Tidal as well, but that's not ideal going first or second, and only having 1 main deck monster that could be banished to make all your effects live was an issue. So more searching was necessary for the deck to be viable. And lastly, if you're familiar with Argostars, then you might have known that I actually left out one of the cards that debuted in Supreme Darkness, but it will get a segment of its own later. A little over 3 months after Supreme Darkness, Alliance Insight brought in the Cavalry for the Argostars with only 2 cards, but each served an important role. As I mentioned previously, getting access to Adra was hard, and it was the only monster in the deck. These problems were remedied with Argostars Fierce Parth and Argostars Giant Slang. Parth is another level 4 warrior monster, and its effect reads: gain 700 attack and defense for each Argostar monster with different names you control, except this card. Quick effect: you can reveal this card in your hand. Return one Argostar's continuous trap you control to the hand, and if you do, special summon this card. You can banish this card you control, set one continuous trap from your hand. It can be activated this turn. Parth is not as good as Adra, but it's a huge buff to the deck. Parth is another monster that can sit in the banishment to turn on your effects, and resetting your traps is a big plus because they are not hard once per turns. And moving on to the spell, Giant Slaying is a great consistency piece that is also a starter. Its effect reads: add one Argostars monster from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, if a continuous trap is in your monster zone, or a continuous trap with an effect that special summons itself as a monster is in your spell and trap zone, you can normal summon one warrior monster. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your grave, then target 2 cards on the field, including an Argostar's continuous trap you control. Return them to the hand. You can only use one Argostar's Giant Slang effect per turn, and only once that turn. A fairly simple card, but desperately needed. And being a quick play means you could set up your board going first, set this card and activate it on your opponent's turn, searching and summoning Adra, and generating more advantage. And the graveyard effect is good, although you can't use both in the same turn. These cards turned up the heat, but not enough. The deck was still wonky. A lot of moving parts, but those parts still weren't doing much. A much needed consistency boost, but not a ceiling raiser. And finally, Duelist Advance was released in July of 2025, and as of recording features the most recent Argostars card, which is the rank 4 Xyz Adventurous Arion. This is a generic rank 4, and its effect reads: once per turn, you can also Xyz summon this card by using one Argostars monster you control. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can add one Argostar spell from your deck to your hand. During your standby phase, you can detach 2 materials from this card, place up to 3 Argostars continuous traps from your graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone. This card is good, but a little strange to me. You'll never want to summon it using 2 monsters, which is fine, because you still get the search, but the second effect you will likely never resolve. It does give the chance to bridge into Argostars using the rank 4 engine, but you have to look at the opportunity cost. If your deck can make a rank 4 and bridge into another engine, there are much better choices like Duo Drive, Infernal Flame Banshee, or even Springen's Merrymaker. But to be clear, this is a good card and a must run in the deck. Argostar's Swift Capane gets its own section because it's extremely frustrating. While this card is face up in the spell and trap card zone, warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Once per turn, if a continuous trap is in a monster zone, you can special summon this card from your hand as an effect monster with the following effect. Then, if you have a banished Argostars monster, you gain 500 life points. Once per turn, quick effect, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap zone. Before I tear into it, the first effect is actually relevant in the deck. The monsters aren't that big, so the battle phase protection is valuable. But the second effect is terrible. Of the 3, it has the worst condition by far. You'd think in exchange it would have the strongest effect, but it doesn't. You just gain 500 life points. Yes, you do have to pay life points for the field spell, but does it really matter? And it's only 500, so you don't even break even. This card is kind of the reason I made this video. It's like they designed the whole archetype, but they didn't hit their card quota and decided to make this. I love gimmicky decks and quirky mechanics, but this deck is trying to do too many of them, in my opinion. Trap monsters that can switch between forms is a good idea. The monsters getting their effects if a monster is banished is a good idea, and the field spell triggering when those things occur is great. But I think it's too much. I feel like the intricate nature of the archetype isn't on par with the strength. If you have to weave your way through these conditions, the payoff should be a lot better. Another major thing working against Argostars is that only 2 months after its debut, we got Maze of the Master, which released the Odeon or Tombkeeper archetype. Another trap monster theme, which was just way better. Odeon can also activate its traps turn 1, but it's more consistent. And the Apophis cards are better points of interaction, in addition to having some other options with Beast of Serket and Anubis the Last Judge. It has a faster tempo, stronger resource loop, and is fairly simple to play. And lastly, these cards just feel intentionally underpowered. It's small details with each card, but they make a big difference. I won't go over Swift Capane again, but Ateo can only be used in response to an effect. Arion can't use its second effect if you use the alternative summoning condition. Parth has to target a face-up card, and the field spell sounds great, but you can only use the negate in a new chain, making it a little harder to time your interactions. And when a control strategy is this underpowered, the only way to bridge the gap is unfortunately through floodgates. Dimensional Fissure, Dimension Shifter, and Macrocosmos are basically essentials in this deck. You could play Argostars with Silhouette Rabbit and the Odeon cards instead, but you'll quickly realize that Argostars don't add anything to those strategies. Argostars may not be the strongest or most functional archetype, but if you're okay with that and you like playing Floodgates, then it might be the deck for you. And unlike a lot of gimmicks introduced in early Yu-Gi-Oh!, Trap Monsters have been fairly successful in the metagame and are still in a decent place now. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. What's your favorite Trap Monster or Trap Monster archetype? Leave it in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.